Well, welcome to this special breaking news deep dive for the RTV Global Network. Today is August 3, 2026. Looking really closely at the massive incident that just occurred over the weekend at Mahara Prison. We have a very specific mission for you today.
Yeah, because usually you just read the headline and move on, right?
Right, but not today. We are going to slow down and unpack the official statement piece by piece. We want to really dig into the timeline, the human toll, and, well, the absolute logistical shockwave that is currently unfolding.
Because the initial details, they always seem so straightforward on paper. Unrest broke out last Saturday. One inmate died.
10 others were injured.
Yeah, 10 others injured and requiring immediate transfer to Regama Hospital. But, reading those facts in a vacuum, you completely miss the immense administrative machinery that instantly snaps into gear the second a life is lost in state custody.
Let's actually start right there with the human cost, because that single fatality, it changes the entire operational reality for the authorities.
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely different ballgame now.
Right. They're no longer just dealing with a security breach or some, I don't know, internal disciplinary issue. They are managing a homicide scene.
A very complex homicide scene.
Yeah. And before we even get to the legal investigations, we really have to look at the immediate triage. I mean, moving 10 injured inmates to Regama Hospital, that is just a staggering logistical puzzle.
The strain on that hospital's infrastructure would be intense. I mean, medical staff, they're trained to treat the injuries right in front of them, but now they're forced to do so under these extreme operational constraints.
Yeah, it's not a standard ambulance run.
No, not at all. The hospital administration has to immediately secure entire wings or, dedicate specific isolated wards. They have to post armed guards in hallways where families and civilian patients are normally just walking around.
And you also have to isolate the inmates from the general public and, critically, from each other.
Right, you can't just put them next to each other.
No, exactly. If these 10 individuals were just involved in a violent incident, you cannot just put them in adjacent beds separated by a flimsy curtain. You have to assume they are either victims, perpetrators, or
witnesses to whatever just happened at Mahara.
Yes, exactly.
Which means the chain of custody basically begins the moment they leave the prison gates. The state has to track who interacts with them, what they say, and ensure they don't have the opportunity to coordinate stories.
Or continue whatever conflict started the unrest in the first place.
Right. Every nurse, every doctor, every single guard is now operating inside this highly pressurized, legally sensitive bubble.
And this triage situation, I think it really highlights just how severe the unrest must have been on Saturday. Because the prison administration, they do not initiate a massive, complicated medical evacuation into the civilian sector unless the injuries are life-threatening.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it in-house.
Right, they keep it internal. So their internal medical facilities at the prison must have been completely overwhelmed. They held out as long as they could, and the severity of the violence just forced their hand.
That human toll, the loss of life and those severe injuries, that is the exact catalyst for the sequence of events we are seeing play out over the subsequent 48 hours.
It sets off a domino effect.
Exactly. The moment the internal systems fail and civilian healthcare is brought in, the walls of the prison effectively become transparent. The internal crisis becomes this external legal mandate.
And that legal mandate brings us to the official timeline of the response, which is just fascinating. The gears of the judicial system started turning almost immediately.
And they follow a very strict sequence.
Very strict. So the unrest and the fatality happened on Saturday. According to the official timeline, the magistrate's inquiry into the incident took place on Sunday, August 2.
Right, the very next day.
Yeah. And then today, Monday, August 3, forensic officers are finally scheduled to conduct their investigations inside Mahara.
Now, that delay between the incident and the arrival of the forensic teams, that's entirely deliberate.
Is it?
Yeah, it's driven by these strict judicial protocols regarding deaths in state custody.
Okay, I want to push back on that sequence for a second, just, from the perspective of an outside observer looking in. If a fatal riot happens on a Saturday, my immediate instinct is to get the science team in there on Saturday night.
Right, to secure the evidence.
Exactly. You want to gather the physical evidence, the weapons, the blood spatter, the damage, before it gets contaminated, right?
Yeah.
Or before someone cleans it up. Waiting until Monday just seems counterintuitive to me. Why does the magistrate's inquiry have to happen a full day before the forensic officers are allowed to do their work?
I get that. You are looking at it purely from an investigative standpoint, which makes sense. But we have to look at it from a strictly legal baseline.
Okay.
A death in custody is, it's one of the most legally sensitive events that can occur in any jurisdiction. The state was holding a citizen against their will, and while in their care, that citizen died.
So the state is carrying massive liability.
Huge liability. Therefore, the very first thing that absolutely must happen is the establishment of independent legal authority. The police or the prison guards, they simply cannot investigate themselves without oversight.
Ah, I see. So the magistrate basically acts as the independent judicial key that unlocks the scene.
That's a great way to put it. The magistrate must physically assess the situation. Given there is a fatality, they have to officially view the body and formally declare the parameters of what is now essentially a crime scene.
Right, because forensics can't just barge in.
Exactly. Forensic officers are an arm of the investigative state. They cannot simply cross the threshold of a government facility and start bagging evidence after a fatal riot. They need a formalized legal mandate to do so.
And the magistrate's inquiry on Sunday provides that mandate.
Precisely.
So it sets the boundaries. Because if the forensic team rushed in on Saturday night without the magistrate officially authorizing the parameters of the investigation, I guess they risk compromising the entire case.
Completely. A defense attorney down the line could argue that the evidence was collected outside of proper judicial oversight.
Oh, wow. And that could get crucial physical evidence thrown out on procedural grounds.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So the sequencing guarantees the legal integrity of the investigation. The magistrate on Sunday validates the initial state of the facility from a judicial perspective. They ensure the scene is locked down legally.
And only after that baseline is established can the forensic officers cross the perimeter on Monday.
Right, to meticulously process the physical remnants of the unrest. They're going in there looking at sightlines, points of entry, improvised weapons, structural damage, but all under the protective umbrella of the magistrate's order.
Wow. But we also have to consider the physical environment those forensic officers are walking into today. I mean, Mahara Prison just experienced a fatal, explosive event.
It's likely a scene of total chaos.
Exactly. You cannot have investigators dusting for fingerprints or taking photographs or analyzing blast radii if the environment is still volatile.
No, it's too dangerous.
And you certainly can't have hundreds of agitated inmates watching the investigators' every move. The science really requires a sterile, secure environment.
Which brings us to how they secured that environment. It triggered the third piece of this administrative response, which I think is arguably the most complex maneuver of them all.
Yeah, this part blew my mind.
The authorities didn't just lock everyone in their cells. They executed a massive dispersal of the prison population.
Right. The official facts state that following Saturday's unrest, the Department of Prisons transferred exactly 104 inmates out of Mahara.
104.
Yes, and they didn't just move them to a single overflow facility down the road. They scattered them across the country to 7 distinct locations.
We really need to list these receiving facilities for you to truly grasp the scale of the operation here. Those 104 individuals were sent to Bambara, Walikata, Busa, Kalitara, Badula, Batikaloa, and Polonnaruwa prisons.
I mean, just picturing the logistics required to pull this off within a 48-hour window is staggering. You're not just putting people on buses.
No, it's highly sensitive.
You have to identify 104 specific individuals. You have to process their paperwork, secure specialized transport vehicles, and organize heavy security escorts for every single convoy.
Over a weekend, no less.
Right. And you are mapping out routes to 7 entirely different geographical locations.
And the coordination with the receiving end is just as intense. You have 7 different wardens at Dambara, Walikata, Busa, Kalitara, Badula, Batakaloa, and Polonnaruwa, who suddenly, without much warning, have to prepare for an influx of inmates.
Inmates coming directly from a highly violent, fatal riot.
Exactly. They have to secure isolation cells, prepare their own medical staff, and ensure these new arrivals don't spark sympathetic unrest in their own facilities. It is a massive administrative undertaking by the Department of Prisons.
It really is.
Yeah.
And if let me question the underlying strategy of choosing 7 different locations. I mean, the primary goal is simply to decongest Mahara so the forensic teams have a quiet, safe environment to work in today. You could theoretically move them all to 1 or 2 large facilities, right?
You could, theoretically.
So is this dispersal about intentionally scattering these specific inmates to the winds to prevent them from communicating and regrouping?
It accomplishes 2 vital objectives simultaneously. The first is exactly what you mentioned, acting as an immediate pressure release valve for Mahara.
Just getting bodies out of the building.
Yeah. The infrastructure there is likely damaged, the guard staff is exhausted, they're traumatized, and they're on high alert. Tensions are just at a boiling point. By physically extracting 104 individuals, you instantly reduce the temperature in the facility.
You create the physical and psychological space necessary for the forensic officers to actually do their jobs today without constantly looking over their shoulders. It's like pulling the control rods out of a failing nuclear reactor. You have to remove the highly reactive elements and drop them into separate holding pools across the country before the whole core melts down completely.
That is a perfect analogy. And the second objective is purely tactical. Unrest of this magnitude, especially an event that escalates to a fatality and multiple severe injuries, it rarely happens spontaneously.
No, there's usually a buildup.
Yeah, it usually involves entrenched factions, gangs, or highly coordinated groups within the broader prison population. There is a network of command and control driving the violence.
And if you leave that network intact at Mahara, even if you lock them down in separate cell blocks, they always find ways to communicate.
Oh, they always do.
They can coordinate their alibis, they can intimidate potential witnesses before the investigators can even interview them, or worse, plan retaliatory violence.
Exactly. So by distributing them across those 7 distinct prisons, the authorities are effectively dismantling that factional network through sheer geographical separation.
You just sever the communication lines entirely.
Yes. An inmate sent to Busa cannot easily coordinate a cover story with an inmate sent to Badula. You neutralize the immediate physical threat at Mahara, you protect vulnerable inmates who might have been caught in the crossfire, and you completely shatter the command structure of whatever groups fueled the violence on Saturday.
We are watching the state manage a crisis not just through physical force, but by manipulating geography.
That's exactly what it is.
They are utilizing the entire national correctional grid to regain absolute control of a single facility. Every single move over the weekend was designed to stabilize the environment so the legal and scientific investigations can proceed safely today.
The forensic team stepping into Mahar right now, they're entirely reliant on the fact that those 104 potentially volatile individuals are no longer a factor in the building.
So let's step back for a second and just look at the sheer velocity of this mobilization. When you lay it out chronologically, the 48-hour response is a massive coordination of entirely different state apparatuses.
It's incredibly complex.
You have a fatal event on Saturday. Instantly, the civilian healthcare system is engaged, pivoting to treat 10 volatile inmates under heavy armed guard at Ragama Hospital.
And concurrently, right alongside that, the judicial branch steps in. The magistrate arrives on Sunday to establish the legal authority, view the fatality, and officially open the door for a criminal investigation, ensuring the chain of custody is ironclad.
And while the medical and legal systems are spinning up, the administrative side executes this massive 7-facility dispersal, moving 104 inmates across the country to break up the tension and secure the physical location.
All of that groundwork was laid over the weekend.
Leading directly to today, August 3, where the forensic teams are finally walking into Mahara to piece together the physical evidence.
It perfectly illustrates how an incident inside a prison doesn't just stay behind the walls.
No, it really doesn't.
The operational shockwaves radiate outward, hitting the hospitals, the courts, and the entire national correctional infrastructure basically simultaneously.
It is a remarkable sequence of crisis management to study. And as we continue to track this breaking story, more updates will follow on RTV Global Network. Because the physical investigation is really just beginning today.
Right. The forensics team will map the scene, but gathering the physical evidence is only the very first phase of understanding what actually happened.
And that's actually where I want to leave you, with a lingering question. Something for you to mull over, based strictly on the timeline and the massive logistics we just unpacked.
Yeah, it's a big question.
We know the authorities rapidly transferred 104 inmates out of Mahara to 7 completely different locations across the country. And we know this dispersal happened over the weekend, before the forensic officers and major investigators arrived today to begin their deep dive into the scene.
Right. The timeline confirms the dispersal predates the forensic investigation.
So think about the implications for the detectives. They will gather the physical evidence today, but eventually they have to conduct interviews. They have to identify suspects and speak to witnesses.
They need to talk to the people who were there.
Exactly. So how do you effectively investigate a riot when the key players have been scattered to the wind? Does securing the prison by moving 104 inmates actually make the police investigation infinitely harder to piece together?
It's a real trade-off.
When the dust settles on the blood spatter and the physical damage, how do you interrogate a network that is now geographically fragmented across 7 different prisons? We will leave you to think about that. Stay tuned for more updates.